Welcome aboard, TTA travelers. Whether you're a humanoid, a robot, or an alien passenger, we hope you enjoy your trip along Tomorrowland Transit Authority's Super Skyway.
Now is the time, now is the best time, now is the best time of your life.
Little orange bird, in the sunshine tree, won't you think of something sunny just for me? If you had wings, if you had wings,
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mangello, and this is show number 675, and together we're going to celebrate the magic of the Disney parks, movies, and more here on the podcast, my weekly live video on Facebook every Wednesday night, community, books, audio tours, blog, and more. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and find everything else at WDWRadio.com. So after more than 14 years, and the first time I've ever done this, it is time to revisit the top 10 smells in Walt Disney World, with a little bit of history, science, trivia, and memories along the way. I'll then have our Disney Trivia Question of the Week, more updates, and a new contest at the end of the show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. How are you going to talk about Mickey Mouse for an hour a week? You're going to run out of things to discuss in just a couple of months. And nobody is going to listen to you ramble on for an hour about Walt Disney World. That is just some of what I heard when I said that I wanted to start a podcast back in 2005. In 17 years, and some shows that go way over an hour, I'll admit later, here we are. And in 17 years, and more than 1,000 episodes, including the original podcast, the videos, the live shows, etc., I have never repeated a topic until today. Why? Why now? And why this? A little bit of history. Back in 2008, on show 75, not coincidentally, 600 exactly episodes ago, I had an idea for a top 10 that, admittedly, I was hesitant to do. Nobody was going to get it. It wasn't going to make any sense. They're going to think I'm a weirdo. Now, some of those may obviously be true, but I very hesitantly, this is true, I very hesitantly pressed publish more than 14 years ago, and boy, was I wrong. Like, you get me. You really do get me, because my fear of you not knowing what I meant when I talked about what the musty water smell in Pirates was very quickly and very overwhelmingly eradicated. And while I am not a numbers guy, that show still remains one that is referenced, and I hear people talk about and hear from people talk about nearly a decade and a half later. But as we know, Walt Disney World is not a museum. Things change, attractions and entire buildings come and go, and new, exciting, and wonderful additions are put in their place. And as time goes on, and technology improves, and we as guests set even higher internal expectations, the experiences in Walt Disney World become more immersive and really do touch all five senses in 360 degrees, including the sense of smell. And so this week, we're going to revisit our top 10 smells of Walt Disney World. And joining me this week is someone who knows a lot about smelling. I I mean sense, I mean Disney sense. She is Lisa Donato Glassner from the Castle Run and, more specifically, CoreMemoryCandles.com. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm crazy excited to talk about this topic, and for another reason that is about to be disclosed.
Yikes. Yikes. And speaking of yikes, I want to welcome back little Timmy Foster from Celebrations Magazine and Guide to the Magic, who originally thought that Musty Water was a cologne from the 80s like Drakkar Noir, Fahrenheit, Calvin Klein Obsession for Men, Cool Water, and High Karate. Little Timmy, welcome back.
Thanks, Lou. So many things to correct there. I still think Musty Water is some cologne you made up. And I like how you snuck that in the intro. So I can't even say that. Right away, you took it off the list, even though that was before.
Tim, I can assure you of something, that the words Musty Water were very, very quickly and repeatedly going to come up. If they didn't, we were going to be doing this show very, very wrong, because Musty Water is really sort of the foundation of this episode. And I really did... I sort of always...
And let me just cut in. I'm sorry, Lee. That was the other reason. I've never been on a show with Tim, and that is the other reason.
I was going to say, Lou, I want to know what this reason is. Lisa's all excited about being on the show.
To record with
it clearly
Tim,
must be coming soon.
She's as giddy of a schoolgirl as a schoolgirl over there.
Me too.
And I did want Lisa to come because obviously you understand the importance of smells, right? It is the sense that is most associated with memories, or dare I say core memories, for the free shameless plug, and memories that are especially emotionally evocative ones, like we are surrounded by in Walt Disney World. And I think too, and as I said in the intro, like we're finding more and more smells in the parks are often being utilized to enhance the overall experience, not just even in an attraction, but in a resort lobby or just sort of outdoor areas of the parks.
Yeah, I think, this is such an interesting topic, and there's so much sort of neuroscience behind the power of scent and how primal it is. And Disney has always been so smart about this, and very openly, via Smelitzer and other things, using the power of scent to drive that home and drive those memories home. And I don't know if we thought at all, if we're going to talk about like the parameters of what we were all thinking about when we were putting our lists together. But I know, like, for me, going forward with that thought, it's not so much about, oh, this lobby smells so pretty or this scent smells so nice. Some of the smells on my list are not objectively good smells at all. But there are the smells that have sort of like permeated these quiet moments that I've had at the parks over the years. And they're the ones that I find myself going back to and trying to replicate when I'm missing the parks.
Right, because like we were saying, from a purely scientific point of view, we as humans have more unique receptors for smells than we do for sight. So a lot of times if we smell something that reminds us of Walt Disney World, it's very specific. And it very much sort of is I think even sometimes more clear than our visual memories. And it's interesting as sort of we think about the integration of smells into experiences that might not necessarily have it before. Did you know, because I'm a trivia nerd, did you know that Disney was actually the very first filmmaker to ever explore the idea of using scents in a theater? Do you know? And if not, it's true. What film did Walt originally want to use smells in?
I remember the story and how he wanted to do it, and the theaters wouldn't budget it. And I don't remember what movie it was.
Fantasia.
Wow. Tim, good look at you on the Ask Jeeves.
Look at me. Look at me. I almost said Old Yeller, but I didn't think that was it.
Yeah, so because of the expense, they were not able to integrate smells into the theaters. General Electric, actually about 12 or 13 years later, actually developed something called Smell-O-Rama, where they had this three-dimensional image of a rose and the scent, but they also couldn't figure out how to involve it into a movie theater experience, you guys are both. I'm hoping that you, listener, is going to. Do you remember back in the early 80s, there were a couple of movies that actually used not smell-o-vision sort of pumped out into the theater. They used scratch and sniff cards. And I think the first movie to do it was a movie called Polyester by John Waters. And as things were popping up on the screen, it would tell you to scratch. Stop laughing at me. It's true. You'd scratch and sniff something. I think supposedly they used it in like the fourth or fifth Spy Kids movie too. Like it's something that they wanted to try and integrate later on into the movie-going experience. But as you mentioned, Lisa, Disney had developed this smellitor like the howitzer in order to artificially pump out smells that Disney knew from a psychological, sociological perspective would be important and integral to the experience. And I think we'll talk a little bit more and how some of those scents are so closely tied to our memories, because we know that these scents can trigger memories and, more importantly, emotional responses. And I think that is the real important part. And I think certain smells have certain type of emotional impacts and effects. Look, aromatherapy is a real thing that goes back hundreds. I think it goes back to like the ancient Egyptians and the Chinese sort of using aromatherapy because they understood the importance and the evocative power of smell.
There's so much knowledge being dropped right now. This is amazing. Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk that Lou would say something relatively intelligent on his show?
Went right into the science. It was great. I think the cool part about this, as we're going to find out as I'm doing my list, at least you talk about how do we decide what to do, is you make the distinction between those aromas. Calling them smells seems kind of not nice, so I say aromas. The aromas that are introduced deliberately versus the happenstance ones, but which we'll explore. But sometimes those are the ones that evoke the strongest memories, as we'll find out.
They're both on my list. They're both very present on my list, deliberate and not deliberate.
And there is this continuing trend to want to integrate this very important human sense into other experiences. Smell-o-vision and aroma-rama, like those are things that are, coming into some of the 4DX experiences as well. There's actually somebody, I believe from Harvard, who is working on a technology that is going to allow your phone to be able to share scents as well as images and text, which is just bizarre. And I think as we see too, like, I think sometimes when we think about certain scents, I was thinking about this as I was going through my mental list and some of the attractions. It's so interesting how we kind of think about smells and color, right? So if you think about citrus, you're in that orange and yellow range. If you think about, grassy scents, we envision things that are green. And certainly that science is very much deliberate and intentional in some of the things that Disney does as well. So I want to get right into the list. And I'm curious and Tim, my feeling, not just guests first. I still believe in ladies first. Chivalry will never be dead, in my opinion. I want you to talk to me about how you started to assemble the list. Was it, you closing your eyes and thinking about some of those first powerful scents that come to mind? Is it the classic Disney scents? Is it the most fragrant or pungent ones, or that are, for you, Lisa, subjectively tied to personal memories of the parks and resorts?
So I come by my list really, really honestly, because when I wasn't local to Disney, I really, really wanted to be local to Disney and sort of yearned for the parks a lot when I wasn't here. And so I was just trying to bring things into my home that would make me feel connected to this place when I couldn't be here. And scent was a big one for all of the reasons that we just talked about. And so my list kind of started back then. And it was just sort of, there's nothing really, I mean, there are some objectively wonderful smells on my list, obviously, but there's nothing like objectively beautiful necessarily about everything on this list. It's really like the sense that brought me home when I wanted to be here. And that's kind of the heart of my list. There's lots, there's other things on it. There's some that just sort of smell beautiful. They're newer and that kind of thing.
And I'm sure
it's really like a list of
I'm sure those objective and subjective smells probably were, and we'll talk about this at the end, but probably were what led you to this idea of us as Disney fans wanting to not just go to visit those scents, but bring those scents back home and sort of the creation of what those core scents were going to be for the core memory candle line.
Yeah, absolutely. The scent that kind of brought me home when I needed it the most, were the scents that I then connected with that much more as a local, of course, and in creating core memory, which is my line of like candles and other products that are based on these scents. It was an attempt to honor exactly that thing. And I'm not the only Disney scented candle company in the world. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be, but the way that I've done it has been to try and quietly honor those scents in the way that I always wanted to consume them. And that's sort of what the basis of the scents and the aesthetic of my line are based on.
So I'm really curious to hear what's on your list, because I know when I asked him, it's going to be this incredibly like obscura, go with me here type of thing. But where did you close your eyes and land on first?
First of all, I'm sitting right here. I can hear you. So,
so I could start in a lot of places. Obviously, there's some softballs. There's some that obviously we can't not say. But I'm going to start with one that's a little quieter because I think it leads us into the topic nicely. And that's the smell of the parks after a summer storm in the afternoon. It's a smell of my childhood that takes me back every time. I think it's interesting because it's one of those rare scents that isn't a deliberate thing in the parks. And it's not necessarily a solely Disney smell, but I think to an extent it's a solely Central Florida smell. And it's just the way that the ozone and the rain hits the ground here and the sort of lush vegetation and oxygen in the air, and then kind of how you can literally see it steaming off the sidewalk after the rain ends, and it kind of drops the temperature about 15 to 20 degrees for 15 minutes, right? And the reason I think for me that this is such a big one is that when I would come to the parks as a little girl with my family, we always had to come in the summer because my mom was a teacher and I was a student, and that was sort of when we could make our trips. And so it was always these really hot days, which I didn't blink an eye at because we were at Disney. But my father used to always joke that you could set your watch to the afternoon storms at 4 p.m. every single day. And so when I smell that smell, I think it just takes me back to that time and that time with him. And again, like I love that Disney understands this enough to use smells deliberately, but I wanted to lead in with something that wasn't necessarily deliberate because those are just as powerful.
It was on my list.
Wow.
It was on my list. I love a good, I actually love the late summertime, early fall lightning and thunderstorms here in Florida. Call me weird. I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time you called me weird, but that's fine. And I love that you're right. There's a distinct smell here versus like when I lived in New Jersey. I don't know how to describe it, but it just, my note said Florida after a rainstorm.
How am I supposed to follow that? I'm done. That was fantastic.
It was their first one.
I know. It's good night, folks.
Just talk about the musty water and pirates and get it over with. Go ahead. That's fine.
You know, when you go on pirates and there's this musty water smell. Now I have, I'm going to cheat right out of the gate and do it too.
There's a shocker.
So, again, so this is kind of actually a mix of a deliberate Imagineering touch that they added to an attraction, and then an inadvertent one, but it might be even more powerful to me as far as the sense memory goes. And this is in Spaceship Earth, and the obvious one I think in Spaceship Earth when you're talking about aromas and scents in Walt Disney World, this is of course the burning of Rome scene and that barbecue charcoal scent, whatever you want to call it. Actually maintain if Disney, this is $1 million idea right here if they're listening. If, as we'll explore other attractions, if they were to set up a stand at the exit of Spaceship Earth as you came out, that sold like barbecue chicken or ribs or something, they would clean up. They would clean up because everyone's in that mindset. And it always reminds us of the Whispering Canyon and the Wilderness Lodge, which is kind of another topic, but I throw that in there.
Tim, please stop eliminating our entire.
Yeah, I know. This is what Lou does to me.
Tim makes
but
he just mentioned 13 things in 2 sentences.
I'm learning. See, at 600 shows later, is that what it was? I'm learning how this works. But that was just an aside, because actually, I'm sure I said this in the first show, so I'm trying to come up with other things I might not have said. The one in Spaceship Earth, though, that I didn't think of right when we did the first show, but it has struck me over the years, is when you're just entering and you're walking up the queue and you enter the loading area. And it's one of these happenstance rooms are kind of hard to describe sometimes, like that musty water smell. But this is like it's a metallic, oily, mechanical, tech kind of an aroma, but it's, forget the mural, forget the scenes, forget the music. I mean, don't forget all those, because those are fantastic. But when I get a whiff of that aroma as I'm walking up the queue, the greatest queue in all of Walt Disney World, I am instantly transported back to that first night in 1993 when I was there and saw it for the very first time, and was in this, not just a cool new park, this whole new world that I've never, this is Epcot's just so different and it's so cool. And I spent the whole evening walking around, and that aroma brings me back to that moment every single time I go to Spaceship Earth.
Yeah. So I just wanted to be clear from my own sort of list, because you mentioned so many, you are talking about the Rome burning, the smoldering embers, right? Okay.
Yes.
It was the first thing.
Well, no, I mean, the first time the second time I was talking about the queue.
The queue of Spaceship Earth.
Yeah, as you want. Were you paying attention, Lou, to anything I just said?
No.
Lisa, you got me, right?
I mean, I listened. I listened to everything that you said.
All right, just to be clear, Rome burning.
But I think he threw, along with a lot of other ones, he threw in as a reference Rome burning, which we're still going to talk about. That's just FYI. And then he moved on to talk.
No, I mean, the Rome burning, that's an intentional aroma. But it's that metallic, when you walk into the loading area, that aroma is really the one I wanted to point out. Because to me, I love the Rome burning aroma. It's great. But that metallic-y, whatever you want to call it, aroma as you first enter, that's the one that brings me back to that first visit every time.
I almost feel like we have to now talk about Rome burning here, just because the burning books as the big elephant in the room. And I almost sort of feel like we're almost doing it a disservice by putting it so early, because it may be one of the ones, and we'll talk about this at the end, it may be one of the ones that is the most recognizable, most powerful of all of the scents. You say Rome burning, anyone on the planet to a certain degree knows what you're talking about, though. That smoldering embers, those from the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Thank God there's a backup system, thanks to the
thank goodness
Jewish scholars.
Thanks, Dame Judy, for telling us about it.
And it's a scent that is, and forgive me, I'm not trying to touch on anything else that might be on the list, but this burning ember scent is something that we pick up in a number of other locations too. I don't think we probably all ride Cali River Rapids as often as we ride Spaceship Earth, but that has that same sort of burning lot. I love the smell of burning woods. I love fires and fireplaces, but I live in Florida, so I don't get to do it as often as I like. But I think that smoldering ember scent is one of the most so directly tied to you know exactly where it's from. You have specific memories of it, or at least I know that I do. And I think it's, dare I say, it's an important smell that obviously has to rank very high on the list. And I'm sure, like you said, both of you have it on yours as well.
Well, it is when
I think it shows up elsewhere, but never in such a well, first of all, Spaceship Earth in itself is an iconic attraction. And so of course, we all are hyper familiar with its details, but it's almost a meditative moment when it shows up, because it's not a scene. It's just it's a scene transition. So you go from the Roman scene to the next scene, and the Arab and Jewish scholars. And as you're turning that corner, you're really just in a dark corner space, and there's just some glowing columns and embers in front of you. So it's such a quiet moment in itself. And I think for me, well, you took the words out of my mouth so many times when you were talking about it. It's such a quiet moment. And when I talked about when I would miss the parks and I would want to bring them home, I would kind of be aware that was coming when I was here. And so sometimes when I was here, I would be in a certain place and I would think, all right, really be present in this moment, because when you go home, you're going to miss it a lot. You're going to wish you were back. And, and that was always one of those moments. It's always on those sort of quiet rides and the quiet moments. So as you're turning that corner in Spaceship Earth, and I would always say, okay, be present in this moment. And that was the smell, and it was dark, and there was just the embers glowing. And now that I live here, like you, Lou, I love fireplaces and summer storms and all that good stuff. And I always half joke, but it's true that one of the main things that I miss about living up north is being able to light a fire in my fireplace.
Yeah, it's funny too, because when we're I'm out there, whether it's blogging or on Instagram, whatever it is, there's a few things I can count on. If I mention them, that'll trigger a great response from people. And that's one of them. If I mention any mention of Spaceship Earth in that scene, yeah, everybody's flooding in I love that. I love that scene. I love that scene. So yeah, it's a powerful one. If I ever am in Spaceship Earth and I get to that scene and for some reason it's off, I'm going to be so upset. First, I'm going to be horrified that they took it away. Although no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just just made me think it's such niche knowledge that when you find somebody else who knows about it, you get all excited because you're with your people.
We're in the club.
Because we all know about it. This is when we say room Birmingham, everybody who's listening knows exactly what we're talking about. But that's why we love them so much.
I wonder if they turned it off, if it's just so permeated into the structure by now that you'd smell it anyway.
So it was off.
No.
So you might and. During the early days of the parks reopening after COVID, all of the smellitzers were turned off. And there was a noticeable absence and emptiness, not just in the park, but very specifically in that scene. It's like watching a movie without the score playing in the background. Something's missing, and it's profound and pronounced, and it's off-putting. That's how Spaceship Earth felt without the Rome burning smell.
Wow. Yeah. Everyone, did you know, I guess you experienced that. Did you realize right away what it was, or was it just something's not right? What is it? And it took you a while to figure out.
It took every fiber of my being to not just start bellowing out, where?
To not screaming.
I love that comparison, though, of watching a movie without the score. You can kind of feel that absence and not quite put your finger on it for a split second. Wow, that's cool.
All right, Lisa, what's next on your list?
Oh gosh, back to me already, huh?
Please be food. Please be food.
Could I do food? Well, I can do food.
No, you don't have to. I want your list to be your list.
Yeah, I'm just going to go straight to Main Street USA.
Yes.
We can't not talk about it. It's those formative memories. And I think whether Magic Kingdom is your favorite park or not, I think most of us start our trips with Magic Kingdom when we come here. And so when you approach and you kind of enter and turn that corner and first see the castle, the waft of the popcorn carts that hits you in the face, and all the people and the confectionery and the waffle cones and Casey's, they all kind of hit you at one time. And it's again, one of those, it's for the most part, an objectively nice smell. It's popcorn and cake and stuff. But I think even more importantly, it's so tied for me to the first moments of a vacation with my family growing up, when we turned that corner and that smell hit you in the face. And I'm sorry, it's such an easy one, but I started with the Afternoon Storm, so I deserved a softball.
Well, you got to include that one. I actually had probably in 20 different forms had that on my list too. But I'll just say one of the first things when we go to the Magic Kingdom, one of the first things we pretty much always do is go through the confectionery. And it's not sorry, Lou, it's not to get something to eat right away, but it just puts us in that Disney frame of mind, and it's mostly the aromas, and it's everything mixed together. It's the cotton candy and the candy apples and everything, and and we probably don't even think of it that way, but that absolutely has a lot to do with it. Going through the confectionery.
And I'm sort of happy that you put Main Street USA as an overall smell, because it's not, there's individual elements to it, right? There's the waffle cones, there's the popcorns, there's the confectionery, each of which was on my list in different ways, because Main Street is not sort of this weird cacophony of scents, but it's almost like this transition. We'll compare it to music again. The audible transitions that happen relatively subconsciously as you walk from places like from Main Street to Adventureland, and Adventureland crossing through to Liberty Square. There is this transition that happens, and you don't almost consciously are aware of it, but subconsciously you do, and it all makes sense. And it's the same thing that happens from an olfactory perspective as you sort of hit these transition points on Main Street USA. Popcorn on Main Street has this sensation of I've arrived. It also has a sensation of this is usually the last thing that I get as I'm walking out, because I'm in enter on the right side, leave on the right side kind of guy. So I like to grab sometimes a bucket, a barrel, whatever, of popcorn on my way out. So that smell for me is very much reflective of I'm on my way out of Main Street USA, whereas the waffle cone, because I walk up the right side of Main Street USA, usually that is my I've arrived scent. It's not a visual of I've seen the castle. It's I can smell the waffle cones wafting out via the smelters from those grates below the windows of the ice cream parlor.
It's so interesting the way it's like a time progression, because there are places that I'm sure we'll talk about later in this conversation where Disney does do an intentional progression of scents that kind of overlap and work together through the course of an attraction. But the fact that naturally happens on Main Street from walking to, and it's even affected, like Lou, like you said, to how you walk in. Like I'm like you, I walk in on the right and I exit on the left. So I usually get confectionery and waffle cones coming in and, popcorn going out. So it's such a progressive experience. And it's almost like, like the type of light changes as you work your way down Main Street. It's like the scent kind of progresses with it.
Timothy?
That's beautiful. Well, I just want to ask you, so next time we all go, we're all going to go together, but if I take you, Lou, in the left side and we go out the other way, are you going to be totally discombobulated the whole day?
Literally, like I'm having a heebie-jeebies. I'm having a
right now. I can see it. I can see it. You're very uncomfortable right now. So you're a creature of habit.
We all have it. This is a separate top 10. Top 10 things that we have to do when we go to. You're listening.
That would be a good one.
About.
Yeah.
We have them.
That'd be good.
All right. Walt Disney World idiosyncrasies.
Oh, I can't. We have to do that because I want to know what yours are, so I know which buttons to push. So for my next one, I think Lisa, you mentioned this. There's a few obvious ones that we should knock out. So I'm just going to knock out an obvious one that we absolutely should talk about, and that is Soarin' Around the World, of course. And the cool thing about doing that in this show is the first time we did this show, we were still in Soarin' World, if I'm not mistaken. So we were talking about pine trees and oranges and all that good stuff. And of course, now we have it's not that new anymore, but we have a new experience to go. But there is a curious thing about this, because there's so many beautiful aromas to catch you with. The roses at Taj Mahal. One of my favorites, that sea salt water smell that you get as you go over the Fiji Islands. This one is curious, though. If I had to pick an absolute top favorite, I always think this is a weird choice, but everyone I talk to totally agrees. And it's that dirt, earthy aroma kicked up by the elephants in Tanzania. And when I describe that to people who have never been there and don't know what I'm talking about, it strikes them as an odd thing. dirt smells good. It's like, oh, you have no idea. And I guess it's not dissimilar to the freshly mown grass that you would smell in your neighborhood or something like that. But there's just something about it that's so, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's different and it's interesting. I don't know if it's more powerful or whatever, but when I talk about soaring around the world with people, they're invariably the same. I like the elephant dirt smell, and it's a weird thing, but maybe not so weird because we all like that one. So.
And we almost feel
you're definitely not alone because I have a dirt candle and it's so
there.
See,
It's not what's the science behind this? What is this
candle?
But I think that to what you're saying, I think a lot of the times the smells that mean the most to us are the ones that aren't necessarily objectively pretty because we still love them. It's like, well, the Norway pavilion smells delightful, but like anybody would think that smelled delightful. It's kind of like it like pulls your fandom out, right? That you like the stink of the water and like the Figment slot machine smells, right? Like that's what like pulls your fandom out. So I think a lot of times it is the like weirder smells.
Yeah, I think part of it too for me was it's not like you said. There's obvious ones, and we were used to soaring, so we knew pine trees, and even though oranges, I guess, were a little unusual at the time, but made sense. Haha. But this one, like the roses make sense and the salt water makes sense, but the dirt, I remember the first time I smelled it kind of struck me out of that's odd. That's cool, as a thing. So I always maybe look forward to it a little more than the others, perhaps. I don't know.
I remember smelling the dirt like one of, if not the first time, and almost like reaching up to my nose, like I had dirt in my nose. Like it was such a powerful smell that I've never seen replicated artificially like that. Like, how do you come up with the smell? And kudos to the Imagineers and all those who came up with. Actually, wait, I'll tell you a very quick story. Going back in time, because Tim, you mentioned Soren, obviously very much on my list. The water, the orange groves of Camarillo, the pine needles, that surf and sand of Fiji are ones that I love so very much. Years and years ago, I went and I was hired to speak at. I was hired to speak to an organization of funeral directors, and how we could integrate Disney into their business. I swear it worked. But they had like a little trade show floor because there is, obviously an industry. And I met some folks there who create the pellets that are used for the Smellitzers in Walt Disney World. I was fascinated by it, and I actually ended up buying from them a little Smellitzer machine that I brought to D23 Expo one year in our booth, and I had the orange groves of Horizons / Soren in the booth at D23 Expo because I met them at a funeral convention.
Do you still have that?
No, actually, no. I take that back. They loaned me I bought the beads, and they loaned me the Smellitzer.
Oh, they loaned you
the device because when else am I going to use that again?
Well, see, here's a fun theoretical question for you. If you had the ability to replicate this in your home, candles notwithstanding, and I so want these candles so bad, but if you could do that,
I know a girl. I think we can get.
Yeah, we can make that happen. But if you could do that, that would be interesting. One, would you do it? How often would you do it? Would it ruin it for you? Is it? It's a good question. Like if you put that dirt smell every time you walked into your house, would it lose some of its "I'm at Disney" charm? I guess it would.
I'm going to disconnect Lisa for a second because I don't want to hear this because I don't want it to sound like a plug.
Oh no.
I love candles. We have like candle warmers in our house, and we have a variety of scents. Thanks to CoreMemoryCandles.com for all your candle needs, whatever. But it's interesting because in my kitchen, we'll have the scent of, apple pie or whatever it is in one room. In my family room, we'll have something else. And up in my office, I have a wax melter too that might be something completely different. So literally as you walk through my home, it's like if you close your eyes or I put you on a little track, it's like going through a Soarin' version of Walt Disney World, because you can instantly sort of recognize, wait, that's a pretzel, that's a churro, that's the beach club, and so it's, you can sort of do that in different ways at home, because it is not only does it make your house smell pretty, but you smell it and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about cinnamon rolls, which I'll get to sooner rather than later.
Just to be clear, did you say you had a churro scented candle, or is that just on your wish list?
I do have a churro.
Oh, you do? I want to know if Lou has a churro scented candle. He's not saying any. He has yours churro scented candle.
Not to get weird, but he has my churro. Yeah.
And I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. Tim, that was yours, right?
Yeah, sure.
Was it yours?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to go to a food-related one, as tempted as I am, but I'm going to one that consistently has still to this day such a powerful, going back to what I said earlier, I have an emotional response to it, and it makes me do something that you're not necessarily supposed to do on an attraction. And stop looking at me funny. I'm getting to the punchline here. The very first time I rode Flight of Passage, I came off that attraction with literal tears coming down my face, because I had the sensation of flight. I felt and still believe it is unlike, and I know it sounds like hyperbole, but it's unlike any other attraction in Walt Disney World. And there are many different scenes that have that olfactory sensation, really sort of complementing what you are seeing on screen. But when you enter the caves in the Valley of Moara during your flight, there is this fragrance that fills the air that causes me to close my eyes. And not in a bad way, because I'm scared to be in the cave, because I love this scent so much. And it was relatively easily recognizable to me, because it very much, in addition to having floral elements, smells of peppermint. And the reason why I recognize it so well, and then I was able to sort of connect the dots, is because as somebody who was, knock on wood, past tense, was a frequent migraine sufferer, peppermint oil was one of the sort of tricks that I would use to help get rid of my migraines, because peppermint oil actually helps with movements and dizziness and headaches. And because it has this sort of menthol element to it, it helps to sort of relieve some of that potential dizziness or vertigo that you might get as you're on the attraction. So as you're sort of stopping and literally and figuratively taking sort of a little pause and a breath, it does allow you to, if you are somebody or potentially might have issues with dizziness or vertigo, I think it's very deliberate that scent was chosen to not allow you to have that. So not only is it cool and crisp and refreshing and wonderful, but I think there are some relative quote unquote medicinal aspects to it as well. And it was very, very high on my list of all like overall favorite scents anywhere in Walt Disney World.
You're definitely not alone. I think that is, as new as it is, it's incredible how iconic the cave scent is and how beloved it is by everyone. And it's so smart, right? Because like you're in the middle of this thrill ride that's like very sort of in all sense, like there's a lot of incoming, like that's very overwhelming to take in. And they give you this like 30-second meditative moment, like very suddenly in the middle of a thrill ride before taking off again, to kind of catch your breath. And you can literally feel the banshee breathing under you. Like he's catching his breath too. Yeah, it's just this universally beloved scene. And they were so smart to use natural scents for it that are, like you said, actually therapeutic, like peppermint.
You know, if the therapeutic thing is true, and I love that you're digging into so much of the knowledge behind this, which is great. But I kind of wish now they would put some peppermint at Tower of Terror so I can get through it. Okay.
Tim, I'm going to get
But
you.
maybe they do.
There's
Maybe I'll put a little under on your upper lip kind of thing.
There's
Good.
a tiny little stick. I have no horseless race called Migra stick, and it's this maybe 3 or 4 inch little tube that has this roll, almost like a ballpoint pen rolling ball at the end. And if you get migraines or dizziness or vertigo, you literally just put it on your temples or even like under your nose, and in seconds it goes away. It is miraculous and completely natural.
I will give her a test run next time.
You could
can
also
Or
report
just
on
follow
stick your face in one of
Penelope's
Lisa's
float.
candles. You could do that too. I mean, not
Wait,
like
what'd you say?
burning, but like
No, don't do that. Or you could follow Vanellope's float around one of the parades because she also smells like peppermint.
Oh, I'm in. Where are we?
Tim, what's on yours?
Am I next? Okay, let's see. All right, you know what? I'm going to do this. This will be a good one for all of us to chime in on because it's hard to narrow down. Like you talked about the musty water smell, and we need to talk about that because that's a powerful one. But as I was thinking about it, because the first thing that came to mind was pirates, because you always tease me about that. But there's so many other attractions that have that, and I thought I'll have one that I'm going to throw out there, but I'm curious what you guys have. I'm sure you all have entries for musty water smell, but in different attractions along the way. And actually, for me, the one that strikes me as most powerful is It's a Small World. When you go down the ramp into the loading area and you're going through, and it could be exactly the same. I don't know, but it's just because of the surroundings and where you are, the contrast of that to the musty water smell in the caves of Pirates of the Caribbean. Can musty water smell be happy? Because it seems happier to me somehow. But again, it's one of those absolutely not intentional by any stretch. It's just the happenstance of the mechanics of having a boat ride indoors and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention the passage of time. It's been there for 50 years now. So, but like these other ones, it's when I get a whiff of that aroma as I descend into the loading area, I'm back to being that little kid, and It's a Small World. And that, like, more so than the music and the sight and everything and the visuals and all that. It's like you talked about, that sense of smell that takes you right back again. So, and again, there's so many quote unquote musty water smells and other attractions. So I thought, again, this would be a good one for all of us to chime in on, because I'm sure we've all got ones on our list along these lines.
So, yeah, of course, absolutely. There's a few of them
course
on
we
my
do.
list as well. The core of the musty water, and it might be that you're smelling it in its purest form in Small World, because I think at this point the other ones have kind of other scent overlays.
Mhm.
Is that they clean their water with bromine instead of chlorine, and it's the scent of the bromine that's kind of that distinct Disney musty water scent, I think, that most of us associate it with. For me, I mean, obviously Pirates is huge, and we can all talk about that. But a more unique one for me that I love so much is The Land.
Yes, that was on my list. Yes.
Because you get that soil scent and like the ozone and like all the, again, like going back to like that vegetation, and like it's really so humid in there. And it's such a quiet, peaceful ride again, where you really get to soak it all in. So we can talk about Pirates, of course, but for me, like the land and the whole Land Pavilion, is a conversation. We could probably do a show on the sense of the Land Pavilion, from the carpet on the walls to Sunshine Seasons. But like for me, it's like it's the ride, and kind of again, it's another progression where you go from the greenhouses into. I'm sorry, when you go from like the more created scenes that you go through, and then you go into the greenhouses. So there's kind of a scent progression there as well.
Obviously, musty water in all of its context it's interesting how the same scent smells differently in different context. The musty water of Pirates smells almost more woody and sulfury, whereas in Small World it smells a little bit lighter and cleaner, and Living with the Land has this again, it's that musty water mixed with dirt and flowers and sort of going back, like you can smell the green, right? You can smell the plants in Living with the Land, as well as some of the sulfur just in the regular Floridian water. But where you sort of smell the musty water differs your subjective sensation because of the context of the attraction that you're in.
And then in some too, like it's interesting because it's kind of in its purest form in Small World. And then in the Land, it's kind of an unintentional like product of all of the like foliage and stuff that you're around. And then in Pirates, I think they kind of layer in. There's like a gunpowder kind of smell for the cannonballs. And there's like a sweet smell with the rum and fire. So there's like the pure bromine and then like the more natural change to it. And then in Pirates, I think it's the most like deliberate at this point.
Musty water is the best.
Musty water. Again, and I'm not kidding. Like 14 years ago, I remember like describing it as musty water. And I'm like, nobody's going to get this. Like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about. And there was this moment. I'm like, you get me. Like we are like literally bonding over the musty water smell.
Well, let me ask you, both of you, because this is something we talked about with many people, like our friends and family and stuff. It's come up. And I get this when I mention this. Hey, I'm doing a show on top smells. You're doing what? Top smells. But that's the one everybody will invariably come up with first. And I'm curious if you have that same experience as you're talking to other people about this idea, if that's at the top of their minds too, as right up there is like the top one. It's absolutely going to be
the question that I'm going to post in the clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. When you close your eyes and I ask you to think of a smell in Walt Disney World, don't think about it. Tell me what that first scent that comes to mind is. Put it in context, share the story. Again, I'll post it at wdwradio.com/clubhouse because all of us, everybody has an answer to this. Everybody will close their eyes, not while you're driving, please. Will close their eyes and something's going to come to mind. And I'm really curious as to what that is. And to your point, Tim, where does musty water sort of fall in that list?
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
You're keeping score, not me.
I think, well, we're all just talking. That's a conversation.
So, my name is Lou Mangello.
To be fair, Lisa was piggybacking on my idea. I don't know if that was really her next entry or not. So, I think to be fair. Oh no, I went. Wait,
that was yours.
You know what? You know what? It's your show. You're in charge. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It does. Listen, don't worry about
Lou,
it.
it's your turn.
Listen, it's been too long since somebody mentioned something that didn't smell like dirt or sulfur or musty water or bromine or chemicals. We need to get something that smells delicious. And if I close my eyes and I think about a scent that reminds me of something tasty, like my mind is waffling, accidental pun, waffling in between the two. But unless you're driving, close your eyes, and imagine you're in Mickey's PhilharMagic, and that smell of the fresh baked apple pie with the cinnamon and the cloves and the graham cracker crust, and you can just sort of feel it all around you, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about being at your grandmother's house or Thanksgiving dinner or wherever those connective memories of having apple pie, July 4th, whatever it is, come to mind. I will tell you that when I first smelled it, when PhilharMagic first opened, gosh, so many years ago, I remember being in the grocery store, I guess it's like 2005, like summer 2005. I remember going to the grocery store and trying to find like aerosol spray that smelled like it, because I wanted this scent of, I wanted this sort of to recreate this kind of scent at home. Like I know that like Glade or something had like an apple pie spray. It was close, but it wasn't quite the same thing. I may or may not be having the poison apple scent burning in my office right now to specifically bring that one home.
I'm glad you said that one because it was on my list, but I was afraid I'd bring it up and you would say, well, yeah, of course, little Timmy Foster. But no, I love that one. And that's, well, you mentioned when you go on Main Street and you get those first aromas, that's one thing. But when I'm at the Magic Kingdom, that's when I know, or it's when I feel like I'm there, or at least I'm in Fantasyland is when I smell that. What can you say?
It's fun too,
Again,
right, to think, to bring this conversation semi full circle. When we were talking about how Walt wanted to have the scents at Fantasmic and the theaters couldn't afford it. And it's like all these years later in his park, we're doing what he wanted to do. It's just kind of a cool little homage.
And they, again, if they put up a snack cart at the exit with apple pie a la mode and little thing, they would clean up. I hope they're listening.
Or even like a little, like one of those like handheld. Okay, wait. When I used to go grocery shop with my mother and I'd be in like Food Town or Pathmark in New Jersey, and Drake's made like those little like apple pies, like in the yellow, in the green and white thing. And I would eat it as we walk. Or you go to McDonald's as a kid and they had like an apple pie that was like 14,000 degrees and you'd obviously burn your face off, but who cared? It was worth it because it smelled and tasted so good and was probably good for you too.
I'm telling you.
It would all like leak out the end when you try to bite into it.
Scalding your arm for
that's a whole. I had to cook those, but that's a whole other story. So, but yeah. Oh, how good would that be?
Lisa, we're back to you.
Oh, good. So I'm going to go with another good smell that's a little different from what we've been talking about because it's not in park. The shower products, the bath products. So there's such a specific scent to the H2O stuff, that like earthy, like eucalyptus kind of smell. And it was so funny because like when I would come here on vacation, I would pack shampoo and conditioner to use. But then when I would leave my vacation, I would have like a suitcase full of these little sample size. Now they have them in the pump. They're smart, right? In the shower, but they used to be able to take the little bottles home and I would always have all the bottles. And every single time I would pack shampoo and conditioner from home, but then leave with a suitcase full of H2O bath products. And like when you would need like a little hit of Disney, you could like pull one and use it in the shower.
When you need a little hit of Disney.
You know what?
You're missing Disney and you want to feel close to home.
Well, you just made my day because you reminded me I have quite a collection of those little H2O bottles in my bathroom. I forgot about some. We're done here.
And people sell them on eBay. Like they're a thing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to go get a hit of Disney when we're done. Love that.
Right. And now they're H2O products, right? That Disney uses. And you can buy those. You can buy those in the store and on the Shop Disney website.
Mm-hmm. Their stuff is actually really nice.
Yeah. Do they still have? It's been long. Do they still have? For a while, they had one that was like a tea tree. It was like a green tea, like scented shampoo. It was. Oh God, it was so good.
I love it.
Stop
Can I
looking
throw
at me
in
like I'm
an?
a weirdo. We all know. We all have our favorites. Go ahead.
No, I know. I
Save
actually
me.
remember that one you're talking. Can I throw in an out of order piggyback one on that one? Because I totally didn't have this on my list, but that reminded me when we were talking about that. And we're talking about bath products and stuff. One of my favorite. It's going to sound weird, but one of my favorite places to shop, even just to browse, is at the Grand Floridian at Basin White, and to go get. I go in. I get that sea salt scrub and go to the sink and. Why? Because you can wash your hands there and dry them off, but you can try out all these different soaps and stuff, and that made me think of that. And I forgot about having that on my list, but that's something we do every time when we go to the Grand Floridian for whatever reason. We make a point to go in there and just browse around, and catch a scent of whatever scent du jour we want to try that day.
You know, that's right. Because the last time you were here, or one time you were here,
didn't we do that?
Yeah, you made me come up to Basin with you.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little weird. You're like, here, try this scrub. I'm like, dude, I'm good.
Yeah.
But
no,
I tried
my
the
hands,
scrub and I love it. And my
your
skin
hands,
and my hands have never been so soft.
That's right. Your hands are very gentle.
And you made it weird again.
But yeah, actually we tell people at the Grand Floridian, that's a great overlooked attraction. Go over there and go and wash your hands. I mean, it's better than that.
So I'm going to sort of combine a couple into one, if that's okay, because it's something that reminds me of a single location, but it also reminds me of a time of year and a certain event. And I had on my list all year round, Ye Old Christmas Shop. Because if I ask you to think about what some of the seasons smell like, I'm going to imagine that your mind probably goes first to wintertime, Christmas time, and the smell of cinnamon and apples and pine. And that's exactly how Ye Old Christmas Shop smells all year round. And it's this wonderful like respite, especially from the heat and humidity sometimes in August, to walk in. And we talk about sort of these transformative places and experience. And all of a sudden, you're not in the sweltering humidity of Central Florida, but you are in this northern New England coastal village town in the winter. And you can almost hear the crackle of a fireplace and smell those pine needles and the apples. And that connected me to Christmas in Magic Kingdom, especially like during the parade and some of the specific scents that they pump out. Not just some of those wintry smells, but the sugar cookie and the peppermint candies and, Goofy's float, and the smell of Christmas in Walt Disney World, in that shop specifically, and then during the Christmas parties is one of my all-time favorites.
Christmas at Disney was an item on my list with all those things. I think there's like the gingerbread houses and the trees, and like it smells so good. And the Christmas shop that's interesting. You like peppermints because there's some peppermint in the smell at Christmas shop.
God, I would love a gingerbread cookie right now.
See? Yeah. Oh, hey, how about the gingerbread houses when you're visiting them in the Grand Floridian or the Beach Club, wherever? And you get that gingerbread smell. Hey, if we're throwing holidays, let's throw in Halloween and a little pumpkin spice, because that always struck when you were asking what do you think of first. I probably actually would have gone Halloween right next to Christmas, but love Halloween too. A lot of the same aromas, but some different ones. But that's a great one.
And again, because this is not a top 10, Lisa, what else do you have on your list?
Are we already at that point? I have like
probably.
Well,
I
3
like
times
you had a
3
lot on my list too. So maybe we do one more each and then our honorable mentions.
Oh gosh. Oh,
Lisa's got 16 pages of notes.
Well, I get so excited about this topic. You know what? There's one you haven't done that surprises me that I'm going to go ahead and say then is Mitsukoshi. I love and that's another one that's just like an amalgamation of all these things. There's like the snacks in the back and the sake bar, obviously the incense that's burning and like all the paper. And it's not as prevalent now because they used to do that big area where they would do the oysters. So you would almost get like a little musty water in there too. And that's a spot that like, I don't know. I feel like because it's I love the store. First, it's probably my favorite store in all of Disney World, but it's also a big open space and someplace that I find myself like hanging out to kill time or like running into during a storm. So it's a place where I kind of end up often when I'm not necessarily doing something else besides kind of taking it in. But yeah, I love the smell of Mitsukoshi.
You know Japan was on my list, so
it was on my list. Well, I'll tell you the notion of Mitsukoshi department store being the favorite store in all of Walt Disney World. That is the correct answer, because that is my favorite store in all of Walt Disney World. And yeah, it's the same. It's like you said. It's neat that it's so big but you walk through and you experience these different things as you go through room to room, which is cool. And I like hanging out in that middle room with the incense a lot, but the whole thing is so good.
Tim, what's next on yours?
Oh gosh. Let's see. All right, well, I'll do this.
I'm surprised that nobody has mentioned something yet, but go ahead.
Well, maybe I'm going to do it, but I'm not sure. So we're talking about going on Main Street, USA, getting that first whiff of something in the parks. I talked about I'm home in Fantasyland when I am PhilharMagic or Epcot at Spaceship Earth. But before you get into any of the parks, for me anyway, you ride that first and best and greatest attraction in all of Walt Disney World. And I can see Lou smiling, so he knows where we're going. This would be the monorail, of course. And it has, you know what? I was trying to think of how do you describe what the monorail smell? It smells like the monorail. It's like it's the new car smell that's 50 years old. Maybe that's a good way to put it. I don't know. But I mean, the monorail is so perfect as your first entry into Walt Disney World for so many reasons. And that's one of them. And it might not occur to you, but it just hits so many senses. You hear that, please stand clear of the doors, and everybody can recite that. And when you hear that, when you hear the thunk of the doors, you hear the visuals, obviously, it's an amazing thing to look at, but that the aroma too. And that's right up there with all the other sensory experiences you have when you get on the monorail. And again, when I'm getting on it the first time, I can see it, I can hear it, but just smelling it, which sounds kind of weird, but instantly probably one of your first I'm at Disney moments, and there's so many of them that are inspired by smell, but that's a powerful one for me. So, and it stays with me no matter how many times I ride it, every time I get on, same thing.
Tim, we have either known each other too long or we are more alike than I care to admit, because I had the monorail on my list and the note was sort of that you cannot describe it, but you know it. And we're not talking about, let's be clear, we're not talking about the summertime, late afternoon, ew, it smells like the people in the monorail smell. That's very different. We're talking about just you in that empty monorail. And it is sort of like that old new car smell. And I tried to sort of, it's like some of the other scents that we're talking about, trying to relate it to an ingredient, or even if you talk about like a wine, well, you can taste the oak and you can taste the cherries and you can taste the plum. I can't do it with the monorail, but it's one of those, as a Disney enthusiast, if you know, and if you've ridden the monorail, the scent that we're talking about. I'd be very curious if anyone is able to articulate and really sort of put into words, what does the monorail smell like? Not the people in the monorail smell. Looks summertime in Walt Disney World is hot. We all get it. But what does the monorail smell like?
Well, I want to hear Lisa. She has an answer to this. She would know.
She's trying to figure out, how am I going to do a monorail candle?
Well, that was my first question. Is there a monorail candle?
I think it would sell more as a gag gift, probably. I associate it with the smell of like Berber carpet. Like that, because I like the carpet. I don't know if it's literal carpet, like with the walls, like what's on the walls is like that Berber carpet smell. That's what I associate it with.
I like it. Why not?
So for my last one, and I know we'll hit on a couple of quick honorable mentions, but for my last one, I'm going to consolidate a few that I had listed separately, and I will bet you dinner at the Boathouse that you have these on your list as well. And I will consolidate the lobbies of Walt Disney World. And I think when a lot of times, if you say a lobby in Walt Disney World, the instant sort of gut reaction is to go to the Polynesian, maybe the Contemporary, maybe Yacht and Beach. But there are so many, and those are all wonderful, comfortable, familiar scents. But I like places like Wilderness Lodge. It's that fireplace. You can almost smell like cloves and timber and spices and woods that it doesn't matter what time of year you go, you almost sort of gravitate over to the fireplace because there is this sort of wonderful warmth and smell that it has all year round. And I think if you go up to sort of the secret study area on that second level by the fireplaces, I think that's one of the best places to really get a sense of it. The swan and dolphin have remarkably beautiful smells
on my list.
Yeah,
thank you.
In their lobbies. And you know what, too? Don't judge me. If you go to and you stay at the Swan and Dolphin, the sheets, whatever type of like detergent or fabric softener they use, like the sheets smell, God, they're so comfortable too, but the sheets smell so good. And I love, love, love the smell of the Riviera. The Riviera very, very quickly became one of, dare I say, probably a top 3 resort for me. And I've tried desperately to figure out what the lobby smells like. And the only thing that I'm a big tea drinker, and it reminds me of like jasmine black tea. And
It's bergamot.
What is it?
It's bergamot.
That's what it smells like. And I love it. I love the Riviera. Gosh, sitting in Voyager's Lounge with a nice little cup of something. That's a nice day right there.
Lou, thank you. I just like my whole body just exhaled in relief because you just tackled like most of the rest of my list in one fell swoop. And I'm so happy.
It's a gift.
And I will say you're not alone. We haven't given it proper homage, but the ocean air scent is the most iconic scent at all of Disney. And we've mentioned it in passing. It shows up in Flight of Passage and obviously Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower and Beach Club and Yacht Club. And it's that ocean air scent that's kind of so iconic at Disney. And we associate it very much with Disney World. Riviera.
It's like Kramer from Seinfeld. Like it's like the beach. It smells like
the beach.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's everywhere at Disney, and it is the most iconic Disney scent. Like we haven't given it proper homage in this talk because it's just such a given probably, but it is the most iconic Disney scent. I think it's setting aside maybe Pirates. But my Riviera candle has overtaken my Ocean Flight candle in sales. Like like the Riviera scent is so beautiful, and it's so it's beautiful and it's floral without being overly feminine. Because like you said, it's sort of notes of tea rather than hard flowers that are coming at you.
I'm sorry, this is me just looking around my office. I don't seem to have a Riviera candle. Cough, cough. Just saying.
Oh, and I'm sold out.
But you dropped a hint there. You might want to.
I will remedy that quickly.
All right. So very quickly, Lisa, then Tim, honorable mentions that are on your list.
So like I said, thank you for what you just did because you just made that so much easier. But I can't not mention the Haunted Mansion. The musty air of the Haunted Mansion is like such a powerful pull for me. The caramel, when you walk into Caramel Kuch in Germany, obviously the Riviera we just talked about. And last but most definitely not least, and I haven't mentioned it because it's extinct now, sadly, but it came in 2 forms, and that's the Orange Blossoms scent. That was originally in Horizons and then was in the old Soarin', and now we don't have it anymore, sadly. But that's like the smell of my childhood. Like I remember turning that corner into that orange grove room in Horizons. That might be my earliest childhood memory. So it'll always be on my list, whether it is still at Disney or not.
Tim?
Love those. I'm glad you said Haunted Mansion too. That's a big one.
Those oranges. That's a tough one to sort of put your finger on. Like, I know what the mansion smells like, but I could never describe what the Haunted Mansion smells like.
Well, I would say musty, but it's not musty water because there's no water in there. But
it's like an old house.
It smells like an old house. So, let's see. I'm glad you said the Swan and Dolphin, though, because I had that on my list, and I never know how to describe it. The best I can always come up with is like tropical bubblegum, but maybe there is a literal thing for what that is. Let's see. Again, extinct, but one I always remembered was, you call it swampy, damp. The dinosaur scene from Ellen's Energy Adventure Universe of Energy had that distinctive swampy prehistoric aroma to it, which was fun.
I'm just happy you didn't say it smells like Ellen. Like this.
It smells like Ellen, like I would know. But of course, there's new scents. So you talked about Flight of Passage being a newer arrival. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, of course, has its own kitchen food scents too, for a new generation of Disney goers to experience. And I've only ridden that once, so I'm looking forward to really digging, picking up on all the subtleties of the attraction, that being one of them. Flowers is a big one. There's lots of flowers around Walt Disney World. You can't even really talk about all of them, of course. One thing I put down just in referencing flowers was memories of Flower Garden Festival, and also of the pathway leading from the Imagination Pavilion into World Showcase. Has always had roses, and it was literally, when we talk about stopping and smelling the roses, that's where I would do that.
The Plaza Rose Garden.
And I was going to say, now brings to mind, oh, that's right, the Plaza Rose Garden. I remember that. One thing I remember from Flower Garden, there's so much to talk about, of course, that's a whole other show, but and I don't know if this is their Lou this year. You could tell me because I haven't been there yet. In France, they had a perfume garden where you would, the gist of it being, these are the flowers that inspired many of the perfumes you might be able to find in the gift shop. But it was neat. It had little stations you could lift up and, smell this flower and this flower and this flower. And that was a fun thing to do. But again, so many flowers to talk about. Where do you start? So I'm just going to leave it at that one. But I think that actually cleans up my list. There you go.
So my honorable mention list is actually very small. I had a couple of just food related ones, which I didn't think necessarily bore their own position in the top 10, because like the cinnamon roll from Gaston's Tavern is really just a cinnamon roll, right? Like just like Mickey waffles are really just waffles and that maple syrup scent that we love. But for some reason, all of those taste better when you're in Walt Disney World. I thought about Animal Kingdom, and one of my favorite places in all of the parks is the lower level seating area of Flame Tree Barbecue, looking out over the water, Expedition Everest off in the distance. But that it's not just the scent of roasted meats, but again, it would go back to that fire and then sort of the cooking over the wood like that. And I'll pull a little bit of it. Oh wait, do you know what else too? Ghirardelli. As you walk by Ghirardelli, like in Disney Springs, there's this wonderful scent that sort of wafts out from there. But if you've been to Animal Kingdom, and I actually think it smells different and it smells better, and like Tim, go with me here. First thing in the morning on those relatively infrequent cool mornings that we get here in Walt Disney World, the damp, cool trails of Discovery Island have this sort of rainforest, like, not that I've ever been to it. I've been to the cafe. I've never actually been to a rainforest, but I imagine this is what a rainforest smells like. It's damp and it's lush and it's green and it smells like mulch and tree bark. And when you get some of those cool, almost like dewy mornings as you walk through, especially if it's really nice and quiet, it's not just the olfactory sensations, but it's that wonderful mixture of all five senses in 360 degrees in terms of what you smell and what you touch, eventually what you taste when you get to breakfast, in that little section that I really like as well.
Beautiful. As soon as you said that, I went there. I mean, I knew what you were talking about. So funny. So.
And next time you come down, we'll actually go there together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I want to know
another promise.
But I always deliver, right? I always deliver. I want to know from you who's listening, when you close your eyes and you think of that memorable scent in Walt Disney World, what is it that comes to mind first, and what comes to mind most vividly? And if you think you can sort of articulate why, let us know. And the best way to let us know is by going to the Clubhouse over on Facebook. It's WDWRadio.com/Clubhouse. I will post that question there. You could also call the voicemail Tell me if you're in Walt Disney World. It's even better. Call the voicemail at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1 and let us know. And then when you open your eyes back up again, I have not one, but two places and people that you need to go to. Again, Tim, ladies first. Lisa, now that we have everybody in sort of the smells of Walt Disney World frame of mind, tell people where they can find your scents and your oils and all the stuff that you've got going on at Core Memory Candles, etc.
So to lead into that, my name is Lisa Donato Glassner. My blog is thecastlerun.com, where we talk about our move here and sort of recreating a life we love a mile from Disney World. And on there, most importantly, you will find my candle shop under the shop tab, which is Core Memory Candles, where I have a variety of candles and wax melts and oils and other goodies that are all made to evoke exactly what we've been talking about.
And then when you're done with that, then you need to go and visit little Timmy Foster and all the good stuff he's got going on over at Guide to the Magic and Celebrations Press.
So I'm fifth on the list or whatever. That's great. Now we have, you know what? We got so much excitement coming up. We still have our 50 years of Walt Disney World Magic book still there with its free anniversary pin. And we have a lot of Epcot goodness coming up. We have an all new book we're working on, a new hardcover coffee table collectible book, 40 years of Epcot magic, where we're going to go in depth on everything, the attractions, the history, the whole gamut. And of course, we're working on Celebrations Magazine. Our fall issue is going to be our summer issue. That's going to be our Epcot issue as well, coming out soon. So all at celebrationspress.com.
Awesome. And I will link to all of those in the show notes over at WDWRadio.com. Lisa, Tim, thank you. This episode literally was 600 weeks plus in the making as we revisit. And I love the fact that we had new things on our list, Tim, from the first time we talked about some of those top 10 smells. And even though you live here, Lisa and Tim, you come down, if you could sort of just snap your fingers right now and be anywhere in Walt Disney World just to sort of have that sensation of a particular scent, where would you go to?
Spaceship Earth.
Oh, you took mine. Well, I'm going to go sit in front of the Grand Canyon fireplace in the Wilderness Lodge.
That's a better answer anyway.
No, I like your... we'll trade answers because I'll... What about you, Lou? Where are you going?
Man, that Rome burning is compelling.
Rome
burning is really, really compelling, but I don't want to be weird and be stuck in front of Rome burning with you for hours again. Man, I got me. I'm thinking about some of that.
It's only weird if you make it.
Well, that's where we are. Maybe it would be. You know what? I'll go to that smell of Christmas because it gives me the apples and the cinnamon and pine.
If you would have picked the table at Flame Tree, I would have met you there.
Oh, wait. Right. We'll all go to Japan when we're done.
It's time for our Walt Disney World Trivia Question of the Week, where I invite you to test your knowledge of Walt Disney World's history or see how well you pay attention to the details in which you see, hear, remember, or taste. If you think you know the answer, you can enter for a chance to win a Disney prize package. And this week's trivia contest is once again brought to you by you. And what I mean by that is as part of the WDW Radio Nation, you literally help bring every episode of WDW Radio to life, every live broadcast, the contest, giveaways. They're all thanks to, and more importantly, by, for, with, and about you. And you can find out how you can help the show for as little as $1 per month and get cool exclusive rewards every month like scavenger hunts, trivia quests. We have monthly group video calls. You have access to our private Facebook group, shirts, stickers, monthly care packages, early access and discounts to special events, and much more. I want to quickly say thank you to some new and longtime members of the Nation family, including Dee Tabin, Denise O. Monaco, Stacy B., George Huang and Tom Nolan, I am sincerely grateful for your love and your friendship and your support and your help. I love being able to give back to you each and every month. You can find out how you can help the show, how to get the monthly rewards by visiting WDWRadio.com/support. Now, before we get to this week's question, we're going to go back, review last week's, and select our winner. So last week, I was talking to you about how I'm not only a Spider-Man fan, but I'm a huge Daredevil fan, and for lots of reasons. Go check out the 3 seasons of Daredevil that are now on Disney+. But anyway, in addition to being a Daredevil fan and now a Moon Knight fan, speaking of Disney+, Spider-Man is still my all-time favorite. And your question last week was to tell me, in which MCU movie did Spider-Man make his first appearance? Now, I'm not talking about the early Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man films. In what MCU movie did Spider-Man make his first appearance? Thanks to the hundreds of you entered, got this one correct, and knew that the answer is Captain America Civil War with an asterisk. And I say that because Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man was introduced in Captain America Civil War in 2016. The scene in Queens with Marissa Tomei and Robert, it's awesome. But technically, we were introduced to a young Peter Parker in Iron Man 2 in 2010. And if you don't remember seeing Spider-Man or Tom Holland in that film, it's because you didn't. But actually, Tom Holland and Kevin Feige have confirmed that near the end of Iron Man 2, when there's a young boy wearing an Iron Man mask at the Stark Expo that stands up to the hammer drone and sticks out his hand, and then Iron Man obviously takes care of it from him. He comes down and says, "Nice work, kid." You don't see that kid's face, but it's Peter Parker. And it makes total sense that he would be there. Why? Because Peter Parker lives in Queens, where the Stark Expo was. He's obviously a fan and interested in technology and a fan of Tony Stark and Iron Man. The ages completely line up. And Tom Holland said, look, I can confirm it. I had a conversation with Kevin Feige, and he wasn't sure if he was spoiling it, but it's out there, and he loves the idea that Peter Parker has been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the very beginning. Tom, it's one more thing that we agree on. Anyway, sorry for that long-winded explanation and answer, but I'm a nerd, and I love the trivia. Anyway, I took all the correct entries, randomly selected one, and last week you were playing not just for the WDW Radio pin and the keychain and the bonus mystery prize, but because it was a Spider-Man question, I also said that I was going to include a special Spider-Man prize from my personal collection. It's a mystery prize. I'm going to pull something out from my collection, add it to the mystery prize, and the winner of last week's trivia contest is Rob Stewart. So Rob, congratulations. Rob actually included the Iron Man 2 reference, coincidentally, as I randomly selected it, which I love even more. So Rob, I hope you like the extra little Spider-Man prize in your prize package. If you played last week and didn't win, that's okay, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So this week, we're going to go back to the parks, specifically Disney's Hollywood Studios and the merchandise shop, which is located near Jim Henson's Muppetivision 3D, the Stage 1 company store. If you walk through, you notice that it actually features a checkout counter that is themed to resemble the hotel registration desk from what major motion picture? So in the Stage 1 company store near Muppetivision 3D, one of the checkout counters is themed to resemble the hotel registration desk from what major motion picture? You have until Sunday, April 17th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern to go to WDWRadio.com, click on this week's podcast, use the form there. Again, you're going to play for the pin, the keychain, and a bonus mystery prize. So good luck and have fun. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in this and every week. Please come be part of the community and conversation over in the WDW Radio Clubhouse on Facebook at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. You can also connect with me online on social. I am at Lou Mongello on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Also, please be sure to like the WDW Radio page on Facebook at facebook.com/WDW Radio and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing, including our WDW Radio live show every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, where we talk, walk, tour, ride from the parks or from the home studio where I share my top 5 live, our Disney Plus pick of the week, your questions, contests, Walt Disney World news, and much more. Again, you can tune in every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern at WDWRadiolive.com. Also, come join our spoiler support group at wdwradio.com/spoilers, where we talk all things spoiler and theories and Easter eggs. Right now, we are having a lot of fun conversations about Marvel's Moon Knight. And if you are part of the WDW Radio Nation, we're also doing our Wednesday night Moon Knight live watch party every Wednesday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. As much as I love connecting and talking with you online, I still believe that nothing beats a handshake and a hug. So check our events page over at WDWRadio.com or on our Facebook page to find out about our next Meet of the Month, which has been rescheduled to Sunday, April 24th. I am changing the location from Disney's Hollywood Studios due to somewhere outside of a park because there is a lack of availability for park reservations for annual pass holders right now. I hear you. I'm going to move it. Check the events page for an update coming up this week. Also visit wdwradio.com/cruise to find out about our upcoming group cruises, including our 2 cruises on the Disney Wish, including our December Very Merry Time cruise, and our April 2023 cruise, 8 nights on the Disney Fantasy, overnight in Bermuda and the Bahamas. To find out how you can join the fun, you can get a free, no-obligation quote from our friends over at mousefantravel.com. Speaking of which, while you're there, whether you're coming to Walt Disney World or Disneyland, any Disney destination or anywhere really in the world, you can visit mousefantravel.com for a free, no-obligation quote. The best possible prices, all available discounts, and it all comes at no cost to you. But more importantly, I use them for more than 15 years. I recommend them to you, my friend, because it's who I trust, and I know that they will treat you like a member of the family as well. I'd also love to try and help you any way that I can. So if you're looking to turn what you love into what you do, I'd love to work with you in one-on-one coaching, a small group mastermind, or at any of my Momentum workshop events in Walt Disney World. And if you're looking for an in-person or virtual speaker for your event, conference, or for your business or school, also visit LouMongello.com and find out how I can craft an engaging, actionable, strategic, and impactful presentation integrating lessons we can learn from Walt Disney and through the Disney parks. And as always, my friend, and you are my friend, whether we have met yet or not, and all I ask is that if you like the show, please help spread the word. Tell a friend, share a link to this or your favorite episode, and tag me at Lou Mongello so I can see it and reshare it for you. And if you can, take just a couple of seconds to rate and review the show over an Apple Podcast or leave a quick rating over in Spotify Podcast as well. I want to thank some recent reviewers like Matt Barty, who said, I listened to the Galactic Star Cruiser episode. Lou goes into detail about what to expect, breaks down the entire experience very well. It'll help you decide if you want to do it. Lou speaks from the experience of a Star Wars fan, but tells it like it is and admits you probably shouldn't take the experience if you aren't a fan, if you aren't going to embrace it as much as possible. Great podcast that I'll be listening to in the future. And Mike A. says it's uplifting, enlightening. I'm a longtime listener. It's the only thing I've been compelled to ever rate. And after each and every episode, I just plain feel better. Lou finds a way to see the best in everything and everyone, and he makes a real connection. Kudos, Mr. Mongello. Thank you, Mike. Mr. Mongello is my dad, by the way. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Matt, and thank you for taking the time to listen this and every week. I know how busy you are. I know how valuable your time is. I am sincerely grateful that you spend and share it with me. I hope that the show put a smile on your face and that you always remember to choose the good and find the good in everything and everyone that you encounter. And I know, as tough as it might be sometimes, to be positive. And if you spread positivity, I promise you, positivity will spread and you'll feel pretty good in the process as well. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope to see you this Wednesday night on the live show or right back here again next week. So until next time, I hope it's your best week ever. See ya.
Hey, Lou. It's Christine Morrison from Flowertown, Pennsylvania. I am calling in because I just listened to your recap of the Marvel Day at Sea cruise, and you guys brought me right back, and I had to start writing everything down because I was forgetting it already. But I was on there with my son, Zach, and it was both of our first cruise ever. And of course, we're going to do it with WDW Radio. You're kidding me? And it's Marvel. Hello. So just a couple of our highlights. I'm going to run through them really fast. The gluten-free dining. So if you're going as a gluten-free person on a Disney cruise, do not fear. They were amazing, helping me figure out what I could eat. The servers They had me pick everything the day before for the following meal. They even told me how to get my food on Castaway Cay. Really, really helpful. That's awesome because as a gluten-free person, sometimes it can be a little daunting trying to figure out what you can eat, and it takes away a little bit of the joy of eating out. So that was amazing. The cast members. This is something that you guys didn't talk about, and I wondered if anybody else had experienced it, but I had so many cast members ask me what we were. Who were we? Were we a convention? Were we there for work? They didn't understand, and they looked at me like I had three heads when I said, no, we are a group of Disney fans that met through a podcast and a Facebook community, and we're all just here together as a group of people that are friends from the internet. They were like, what? So I think I had three different cast members ask me that. So I didn't know if anybody else had experienced that. We were so busy doing trivia and karaoke and running around the ship, doing all kinds of stuff that we didn't even get to see the Tangled show or the USO show. We had dinner at Palo. My favorite thing I ate on the boat was the ossobuco from Palo, and I loved it so much. And I was talking to my server about it that the next night it was actually at my table at Animator's Palette. How awesome was that? Every day I sat down, my wine was waiting for me. My son loved this one drink from Marvel Day at Sea. So every night it was at the table waiting for him. Movies by the pool were awesome. My only regret is that it was only 5 days. I need to go longer. I loved meeting all of you guys. The Marvel Heroes Unite was awesome. 2 words, Red Skull is all I'm going to say. Oh, gosh. Oh, I did the in-room gifts for Zach. Thank God I did because there was no merchandise, unfortunately. But we did do the in-room gifts, and that was awesome. I loved how our room attendants turned down our beds for us. Like, that's like, I've never had that before. Dove chocolate on the bed every night, and every night I ate all 4. Dove chocolate is my favorite. The door decorating contest was awesome. The magnets were awesome. Oh yeah, putting faces to the names of everybody from the community and meeting Ray and Vanessa because they were so helpful on our Facebook page. Any questions, they had the answer. They were finding it. Vanessa specifically, you were awesome. I hung out with Ray a little bit on the boat, and he was great too. Just wonderful. He actually gave his white elephant gift to my son, and so then I went up and told Lou to give him the last gift so that he wasn't going home empty-handed. But that's just the way we are. We are an amazing group, and we love each other, and thank you. I had such a wonderful time, and I'm really going too long on this. I needed to write a book. Make somebody smile. I'll see you guys in the box on Wednesday night. Take care. Bye.
Hi, Lou. My name is Megan, and I'm from Minnesota. We are planning a trip next year with my family early January where we're going to be staying at the Beach Club for 4 nights and my dream resort that we've never stayed at before, the Polynesian, for 4 nights. I was calling to let you know my idea for a dining experience at Walt Disney World. This is one that I've actually been conceptualizing in my head for a couple years now. I know that we're getting rid of Splash Mountain for very reasonable and logical reasonings, but some of the characters in that attraction are beloved by Walt Disney World fans. So my idea was to have a cafe, coffee shop, bakery called Sippity Doodah. I haven't really gotten past much more than just the name and the fact that they'll have pastries, one of them being Brer Bear Claws. I just imagine it back in the souvenir shop by Splash Mountain. And yeah, that's all I got for you. I just like the name and, maybe have like Bluebird coffee or something like that. But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do. And hope you have a great day. Bye.
Hello, Lou Mangello. It's Darlene Yagi, formerly of West Seneca, New York, and currently living in Central Florida. just wanted to say congratulations to all of the runners this past weekend. They were amazing, as always. And, I have a little guys in the background wanting to say hello, too. There is a countdown for $118 for the Disney Inaugural Wish trip. And then there is 244 days for the WDW Radio Disney Christmas Time on the Wish. And the Bermuda cruise is now 365 days away for that fantasy adventure. That's going to be an awesome Bermuda, Bahamas cruise. I hope you guys had a wonderful time on all of them. I wish I was able to go, but I can't. You have a magical, wonderful day. Talk to you real soon. Stay positive.